It's Morbin time! That is right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. After 3.5 months of Morbius, the masterpiece, being out there in the world, I have finally seen it. As I mentioned in my Fantastic Four video a couple days ago, it was my birthday on Friday, and I got Morbius on Blu-ray for my birthday. A really great thing right there. You know, what more could you want for your birthday than Morbius himself? So I got that, and I actually got to sit down and watch the movie for the first time. And now we're going to talk about it. We are going to talk about Morbius. I don't plan on this being like a super huge, long, in-depth review. It's going to be kind of all over the place, just basic thoughts on this movie. And yeah, so Morbius is, it's kind of known as a really, really bad, trashy movie. It's most popular for its memes, really, at this point. But I'm gonna be honest, I actually like this movie. Now, I know that may sound weird, but I'm like, it's not a joke either. Like, I actually liked Morbius. I enjoyed this movie. Sure, it's really bad at some points, and it's not perfect by any means, but I actually really enjoyed Morbius. And an even hotter take, if I'm being honest, I think I actually liked it more than Venom Let There Be Carnage. Yeah, that's right. I actually did. Because Morbius, like, you know, obviously after hearing all the reviews, after seeing all these things of like these terrible lines and seeing the memes and all that stuff, it seemed like a really bad movie. So that was kind of the mindset I was going into this movie with, is that, oh, this is going to be a really bad movie, but, oh, gotta watch it at least once. We'll see how this goes. And maybe that's why I liked it so much, is because I had such subverted expectations. Maybe that's why, but I actually had a lot of fun with this movie. So let's go ahead and jump into this and really talk about what I liked about this movie, what I didn't like about the movie, and all that stuff. So first, let's talk about the beginning of the movie. So this was the one thing that I did not like, is just like how we opened up on the whole scene in Costa Rica. Like, as soon as that started, I was like, oh, they're actually starting with this scene. How stupid are they? Because, you know, personally, if I was making the movie, if I was the director, I would have started with the orphanage stuff and then gone to the Costa Rica stuff, because then when we got back to present day, it wasn't clear whether that was before or after the Costa Rica stuff. So there were some really confusing parts of this movie when it comes to like timeline and like what happened. Like, also the part where Michael Morbius, he got his Nobel Prize, and then it just like, he started walking up to the stage, and then it just blacked out. Next scene is just one quick mention, like literally one line when he says like, oh, I rejected it, or something like that. And that was probably one of the biggest problems with this movie, is that there was just so many random things. Like, you could tell that it was a very rushed movie, and there was a lot they cut out. Like, you go back and watch the first trailer for this movie, at least half that footage is not even in Morbius. And that's not good. Obviously, we know they cut out all the Spider-Man references, like Oscorp and the Spider-Man mural graffiti thing and all that stuff, which, you know, obviously I was upset about that at first when we first heard about that, but actually watching the movie, it really didn't bother me that much. We still had some references to Venom and stuff, because we know that it takes place in the same universe, so that was cool and everything. But I feel like if they kept in a lot of that footage that they originally had and originally showed us in those trailers, this movie would have already been so much better, because that's one of the biggest problems, is that it's just so rushed and confusing at points, and it just cuts to black at random parts. And yeah, it's just, I don't get why they cut that stuff out either, because the movie is only like an hour and a half, like a little over an hour and a half, so it's not like they needed to like cut down the runtime or anything. Like, it's kind of a short movie. I don't think it's as short as Venom Let There Be Carnage, but yeah, it was just weird that they had to cut out all that stuff, and especially taking like the Michael Keaton stuff, which was originally supposed to be part of the movie, and then making those the post-credit scenes, which, by the way, the worst part of the movie right there, probably the worst post-credit scenes I've ever seen, but we'll talk about that later. But Michael Morbius as a character. So Jared Leto, I feel like at times his acting wasn't the greatest, but for the most part, I actually really enjoyed this character. So I enjoyed seeing his story of, like, you know, he had this rare blood disease, he wanted to cure it, his relationship with Milo and all that stuff. He became this famous scientist, you know, he was really in poor health condition, but still making jokes every once in a while and stuff. And then all of a sudden he finds this cure, he tries it on himself, he becomes a vampire, and you could really tell how he was disgusted with like the stuff that happened. That's why you really needed to see that scene on the boat where he murdered all these mercenaries so that he could really, be like, oh yeah, I don't want that to happen again, like checking the security cams and just being absolutely horrified by that. That was great. That part was awesome. And like I said, there were just some missing parts and missing pieces that like they could have developed his character more. Same goes for some of these other characters, like Martine. I liked her character. I think the actors did an amazing job with the acting for that. But she just didn't really have that huge of a role in the movie, and I didn't really honestly feel the chemistry between her and Jared Leto. So I'm not completely sure about that relationship. But Milo, I think, was my favorite part of the movie. He was a great villain. I loved his story, being Michael's friend from a young age. Michael actually giving him the name Milo and all that stuff. And, it made sense, obviously, again, if they, kept in some extra footage there and developed his character more, it would have worked even better. But I feel like for the most part, it worked good enough with the whole thing of like, he's been dealing with this disease his whole life, being in this terrible health condition. He just wants to be better. He wants to be normal. So to find out that your best friend has a cure, but he won't give it to you, it makes sense that he would then go kind of psychotic, especially seeing at the beginning in the orphanage when he was beating up those bullies. Like, you could tell he had some psychotic tendencies, and sure, there were some silly moments with him, like him dancing shirtless and just being a vampire wearing a suit, but at the same time that was kind of like funny, cheesy, and like actually worked really well. Whereas like some of the stuff in the Venom movies where it's like super cheesy and super like sitcom comedy-ish, I'm not really a fan of that. But here I actually liked it a little bit more. I thought that was really funny, and actually seeing like you got Morbius just dressing all in black here, and then you have Milo who's like all dressed up in suits and stuff. He was like super fancy and everything. Also, how we actually saw that scene where in the movie he's actually a vampire, but we saw really like our only real look at Matt Smith's character of Milo in the movie. In the trailers was a shot where in the movie he was actually in vampire mode. So that was really cool seeing the differences right there. The other stuff going on here, like with the detectives and stuff, they were all right. They cut out a lot of stuff with them as well, like with Tyrese Gibson's character. In the trailer, he literally had a metal arm, and they did a quick reference to that here, but you never saw that. So that was kind of disappointing as well. But again, like I said, this whole review is kind of all over the place. But I want to go back to talk about Morbius's powers. I think his powers were really cool. Really harkening into like just the abilities of a bat, not necessarily just a vampire in general, like with super strength and like flying and agility and speed and all that stuff, but also like the sonar and like the super hearing. That was really cool, even though it was like a little disturbing seeing his ear do that weird thing, but it was still cool. It was still really cool seeing that. The whole thing with like the visual effects of like seeing this like kind of blended like trail of everything that happened with his powers, like when he did his sonar thing, when he did the thing with the ball, like just see the trail of that, like that was really visually cool to see, especially at the end when he was wearing his black and purple outfit, which I loved that, because obviously it's not like super comics accurate with how Morbius looks in the comics, but still it was close enough. He was wearing black and purple, and that was great with the swirly trail, just the black and purple. That was awesome. That was really cool and a lot of fun. And let's see. So obviously the whole thing with him, he needs blood, and the whole artificial blood thing was actually pretty cool. I enjoyed seeing that, especially how like after a while that's gonna wear off and he has to go full red, but obviously he doesn't want to get to that point because he doesn't want to kill people, he doesn't want to eat people. So that was a really cool internal struggle for the character that I enjoyed seeing play out in the movie. And that was, I like I said, I honestly don't even know where I'm going with this, but there was just a lot with this movie that I actually really liked. I really liked this movie, and kind of everything except for the post-credit scenes, which I'm not really even gonna get into that because those just make no sense. I mean, it's cool to see Michael Keaton back as the Vulture and all that stuff, but it just made no sense of like how Doctor Strange's spell worked, of like why that would bring Michael Keaton into this universe. Why the hell his first line and only line in that first scene after getting teleported to a different universe, oh, I hope the food's better in this joint. Like, what? And then them releasing him and everything. How he got a vulture suit, like that's, and then Morbius being recruited to the Sinister Six, and all he says is just intriguing. Like this guy was a hero for the whole movie, and all of a sudden he's going to become a villain and go fight Spider-Man, a guy that he's never even met before. It just doesn't make sense. So that is the worst part, because you really need to have a good ending for a movie, because that's like the thing that people leave off on with your movie. So leaving people with that disgusting taste in their mouth of that post-credit scene, that's probably where a lot of this hate is coming from. Because honestly, the movie itself, sure, it's very, very memeable, and I have really enjoyed these memes, but for the most part, I think it was great. And actually, the ending, it was rushed. It was weird how Morbius just kind of flew off and like it just turned to black. Like I was kind of expecting that, but I felt like there'd be a little bit more of wrap up to the story, with the whole Martine becoming a vampire thing. I don't exactly know how that happened, but it was kind of a powerful moment, like how, Milo killed her, but then Morbius was like, oh, I'm gonna drink your blood, and I'm gonna go red and all that stuff. So that was a cool moment. Again, I don't know how she turned into a vampire, but I'm glad she did, because I think she was a cool character. So I honestly do hope that we get Morbius too. Or at least more of Morbius. I'm not really interested in seeing him with the Sinister Six, especially after those terrible post-credit scenes, but I want to see more Morbius. Whether that is in a Morbius 2, I did a video a couple weeks ago about rumors that Sony wants Blade, like the MCU's Mahershala Ali Blade in Morbius 2, or even Morbius going into the MCU for a Blade movie. That could be cool as well, joining the Midnight Suns. So I don't really know where this is going to go from here, especially after the absolute failure of Morbius releasing twice in theaters and bombing both times. So again, I don't know where this is going to go, but I hope it goes well, because I actually did really enjoy this. Again, I liked it more than Venom Let There Be Carnage, which is not something I was expecting, but it could be recency bias for sure, but I don't know, it was weird. It is weird that I actually liked this more, because I wasn't at all expecting it, and that, again, could be kind of why I enjoyed it so much. I know a lot of people just completely hate these Sony Spider-Man films. I don't. I mean, I admit that they're not the greatest. They're really not. I mean, they're all right movies. Like even Morbius, I'm talking about all the things I love about it. I definitely didn't love it though. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't hate it like most people do. And yeah, I hope we do get to see Morbius again in the future. I think Jared Leto is perfect casting for this. I mean, he literally looks like a vampire in real life. So yeah, I like Morbius, and I'm not ashamed to say that. It is Morbin time, and I hope we get more Morbius in the future. But guys, let me know your thoughts in Morbius in the comments below. What did you think about Morbius? Is it Morbin time? Did you like the movie? Did you hate the movie? Do you want a sequel? Do you want to see Morbius again? Thoughts on those terrible post-credit scenes? Let me know all that in the comments below. But for now, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything goes on in the Marvel life.